What is your favorite holiday tradition?
Oh man, I'm not much of a tradition type guy. My
Let me open it up then. What's your favorite thing? And we're going to keep it to Christmas.
well, I got a tradition. It's happened for the last maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
My dad cooks a rib roast at Christmas, and it is my favorite meal ever. It is incredible.
Ford serves.
Yeah, he loves to cook. He's a great cook. I
Yeah.
mean, growing up, I remember my stepmom making maybe 4 meals in my life.
Wow.
One of them was clam chowder from a can, and she burnt the clam chowder.
So burnt can clam chowder.
Yes, say that 4 times.
I can't. I was like, that's a good vocal warm up. No, here's
4
the thing.
can clam. What did you say? Clam chowder. 4 can clam.
No. It's burnt.
4 burnt can clam chowder. 4
That's a
burnt can
mess.
clam.
That's a mess.
So that's my favorite. I'm not like the traditional type guy of like, oh, we got to do this and we got to do that, and I love that because it's a great meal, and I don't think you can get what he cooks anywhere else. So it's a tradition because, our parents are going to pass away at some time. We're all going to pass away. I don't want to get too dark on this podcast, but like that's going to be something. Oh, hang on.
Yes.
But I'm gonna look back and be like, man, I enjoyed those times. Those were really good times. Because I'm not going to get that meal anywhere else. So, how about you?
Well, first I'm going to shout out Ford real quick. So last night, the smell of his I can't even call it chicken noodle soup, but the smell that it put into the air, I didn't even have to eat. I was full based on that. I was like, if I had no money, I'm just going to stand outside of his window. Like, I got Ford. What are you cooking today, my friend? Shout out to Ford.
That's incredible.
Okay, so the thing, and I want to just love on my sister for a minute. What we have been doing, anytime that our family gets together, we are trying to be intentional about setting a camera up and talking to my parents and getting them to share stories just on like their upbringing, childhood, what made them the people that they are. And gosh, the thing at the end of the day, like the content is going to be priceless. And I'm just I could almost get teary about it. It's something that is so special. And I think the other thing that's really cool is like we'll be listening to my parents going through a story, and there's like these like little moments when like they'll do one of their isms, and then like she and I just like we'll get like a quick like haha, right? Just really, really special moments. So that's my favorite tradition that I would say.
Yeah, what you're doing is what sort of what I did with my parents 2 or 3 years ago. There's a website called Storyworth, and what it does is we gave it to my parents and gave it to Aaron's parents, and they get an email once a week, and they go through and it says, tell me about your first boss or your first job or your favorite car you had. And so they would write a story. And this is when my dad's a great storyteller, but he's not the great at like grammar and stuff. So we would take his story, put it in ChatGPT, fix the grammars, and then put it back in. So you get one once a week. And after 52 weeks, you're done. It takes those stories and puts it in a book. So I don't know if you've seen it at our house.
Yeah.
We have a book of Anne Brown, Ford Silver, Cindy Silver. And then what started this was my father-in-law, Ronnie. He did it. He went rogue and did his own before we found out Storyworth. And so he grew up really poor on a farm, not too far from here. I mean, he slept in the cotton fields. I'm like, what? Like, this is like in your lifetime?
Yeah.
And he's the first one in his family to go to college. And so just him writing that book shows like where he came from and where he is now. And he does listen to our podcast. So shout out to you, Ronnie. Very inspiring person. And it's just great to have those books in hand that our kids listen to. My dad, he went a little bit extreme in some of them. Like one story's talking about Ted Bundy. I was like, Dad, like, because he was at the same park where Ted Bundy was. Like, I think when he took one of his victims, my dad was in that park that day. I know. I'm like, Dad, why are you talking about serial killers in this book I'm reading to our kids? I'm like, let's just skip over this one. So, yeah, there you go. So that's a great thing. Storyworth, we're not affiliated with them. But
Yet.
it's a really great thing that if you have parents around, especially if they're older, to give them that, and they could write email. They get an email, they write out their story, and at the end of the year, you'll have a book of all kind of stories about your parents. So
That's
I love that
brilliant.
you're doing that. Let's jump into today. All right. So today, we're going to be talking about leadership. And one of the key pieces of leadership is relatability. And I want to play this video that you guys will listen to. And let's listen to the video, and then we'll jump in of how this guy approaches leadership and talk about relatability in leadership.
I remember the first day I became superintendent of a school district, and I walked into a school. I was going to visit all schools that day. And when I walked into a room, everybody was seated. And as soon as I walked in, everybody stood up, and it freaked me out. It really did. I felt so uncomfortable. I said, please don't ever do that again. I should be the one standing for you because you're on the front lines of this work, right? And, servant leadership is transformational leadership. And I have a superintendent that I coach now who puts it best. And he says, if you are not a servant leader, you can't be a transformational leader.
So good.
So good.
I love the fact when he walks into the room, because what I'm thinking about is the leader before him walked into the room and expected people to stand up. And here's this guy. Obviously, this guy, I don't know who this guy is.
No idea.
Found him on YouTube. And he is obviously in this position because this guy is no longer in this other position. And think about being in that room where you stand up, where people come in. I'm like, do people still do that? That's weird. And to have this guy say, whoa, 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 I need to be standing for you. You don't need to be standing for me. I would love to know what went through those people's minds in that moment. I mean, that had to be very impactful of like, here's the leader before that demanded.
Yep.
And now here's the guy coming in to serve. What were your thoughts when you heard that?
So the first thing that, and it was so clear in my mind, was our lead coordinator. I had Roxy come straight front of mind, frontal cortex. She's such a great human, and she's so influential within our company. She literally is the sunshine of the day. The human. I mean, I've had the privilege and honor to get to work with her for a number of years now, and I've watched her have some hard things go in life, and even in those moments, she still shines. And I think to that idea of, I think of it's like energy, right? What I hear him when he said that is the energy that was in the room, right? How were those people feeling when the old leader came in versus what he's trying to create? I think you say it often, something about the idea of like, when you walk in the room, do you create scarcity or joy, right?
Joy or anxiety. Because you create one of the two.
Yep. And that automatically, I mean, I get that as a real serious mirror. Like, I think of like probably 2015 to 2019, maybe someone would even say yesterday me, hopefully not. But I think that's it's such a good thing to think about, is like, what is the impact that you have in the spaces you go into. I can go really deep in the paint on this one too. It's where I use doors as triggers, like to try and like presence myself. Like, where am I at right now? Right.
I just can't fathom in my mind where I would walk into a room and expect people to stand up. And so when he came in and said, no, I need to be standing for you, he instantly got that relatability.
Yep.
And we talked about this, not on camera, but relatability is such a key to leadership.
Yeah.
Because we see people and I'm like, dude, the relatability, and I'm not putting down any of this stuff, but we are, as leaders, I see their lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
and it's not relatable to most people.
Yep.
We've had this before. If you follow us on social media, one of the salons that we coach, she said that she was like, you guys are just so relatable. And she's like, you're the same as you are on camera, on stage, off camera. And I'm like, well, I think that's the way it should be. But I think, and again, we talk about pride, we build up like we have to be better and bigger than what we need to be. And I think the key to leadership is just being real and having that relatability. And that relatability could go all the way down to communication and empathy and connecting with people. But the first thing is like, I look at my lifestyle and, for instance, if I'm driving, and I'm not saying this is wrong, but if I'm driving a $130,000 car and I live in a $2 million house and I'm flying first class wherever I go, and our family vacations are, to Australia and New Zealand and London, the relatability piece to my team is going to go down, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Do you disagree? Agree? Because you can disagree.
Yeah. So I think it's how you present it, right? Even as you were saying it, I remember one human that I worked for, and he traveled a lot, and I remember it was always like, oh, and look at this thing that I got when I was there, and oh, look at this picture, and this is the person, and it didn't even, like, you had so many opportunities to say, hey, I went to this art museum and I was really inspired. What was the last thing that might have inspired you when you looked at, something creative, right? Like there's that part of bringing that in, right? Or in my mind, I mean, and this is funny. I'm not gonna ruin the question because I got a really good one for one of the next episodes that we do. But one of the things I just think about, like, yes, you can have all of these things, but it's also about the way that you present them. Like my main thing would be like, I do like having nice things, but I also like, one, I like sharing the experience of that. And then secondly, like I am so in the space of like, you tell me what you would like to do within your lifestyle. I will do my best to make it happen.
Yeah.
And figure out how to get there. Right. Most people, I mean, my Lord, the hobbies and the lifestyle things I do, drifting is just ridiculous, right? From a sense of consumables. And also I have to make sure that like people understand like, hey, this is my passion center. It's something that puts me so far out of my comfort zone that I feel calmer. And it's something that allows me to like really clear the things that are in my head. So I think it's about the way that you present it. And then within that, I mean, I think that's one of the keys to relatability. Like read the room, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you took a point that I was thinking about because, it's how you can have those things and be really generous.
Yep.
But this is a hot topic and I would not get in an argument with anyone. But I do think that pulls you away from relatability a little bit. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I think as leaders, like we need to have, you need to have things that people in your company won't aspire to be.
Yep. And
so, to me, I'm not a materialistic type of person. Love to play golf. Do I play as much as I want? No, because again, it's that related. Let's use this for example. So golf. So I have a friend of mine. He says, "Hey, let's go play golf Wednesday." And I'm like, "Well, dude, I'm working on Wednesday." He's like, "Dude, you own the company. Like, you can go whenever you want. It'll be fine." Will the salon be fine? Yes. I mean, I'm not that important where the salon's going to fall apart or not. But the relatability piece, if I'm playing golf 2 or 3 times a week, is that wrong? No. Is it wise though? And so I thought coming from working in the organization 9 to 5 with a salary to the salon, I would have a lot more time to go fishing and golfing, and I've had less time. Because if I'm out playing golf 2 or 3 times a week, and then I need to have a tough conversation with one of our staff people, they're going to be like, dude, you're never here.
Yep.
You're out golfing.
Yep.
You're out playing while I'm here making money for myself and for the company. So I'm not saying it's wrong. This is just me personally. I have to scale back. Like when I'm traveling, I typically like to be gone Sunday, Monday, back in the salon for Tuesday.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And we travel, like when I come up there to Wisconsin, our team supports that because they know the vision of Refine.
Yep.
That's the difference. They know the vision. When I was coaching independently, they didn't know the vision. They're like, oh, he's probably just doing this for extra income. And now, since they've seen Refine in person, like they've seen our workshops, they saw us speak at the big event, they're so invested now. So it's really great to see them. But that's the relatability part. They've seen the grind behind the scenes.
Yep.
They see I'm the first one there. Sometimes I'm there on the weekends.
Yep.
So nobody in the company is going, you're never here.
Yep.
Because it's not that I'm a workaholic, but
I love that you shared that point though, because I think for me, one of the things that I try and be very, very mindful to, and I think this is another relatability piece, like I will not allow myself, and I try my very best. Like if there's, you know, a heavier workload for some reason that is going on within Refine, that has nothing to do with the humans that I shared time and space with within Anagen, right? Like that's my choice. They're not telling me that I got to go do that, right?
Right.
So I'm always trying to be really, really mindful. And I think the other thing that's funny, I mean, when I had one of my team, they're like, "Oh, you're going on a vacation." I was like, "I mean, yeah, if you have a business partner that creates 16-hour agendas and you roll with 16 hours, then that, if you call that a vacation, then yes, it is a vacation, right?" But it is something though. I mean, I'm thinking about this for, you know, my day tomorrow when I get back in. Like traveling, I mean, you have such, I mean, you can go to the wrong airport and still get home on time. Blows my mind.
Well, I'm blaming your airport. I think the common denominator is Appleton. So y'all need to get it together, Appleton. I know y'all listen.
Yeah. ATW, let's go. No, but it is though. Like I'm literally in my mind, I'm like, okay, if this goes, if I get delayed or whatever happens, that's my energy to control, right? That is no one's fault within my organization. Doesn't matter how stressed, whatever happens. Maybe I get, you know, they don't let me on the plane in Detroit, whatever it could be. I mean, I've had a fun year of travel now.
But listen, Christopher, your life is about to change because now you have Delta Lounge access.
Oh, good Lord. Well, when
I'm telling you, you get delayed, you kind of get a little excited because you're like, oh, I can get some work done. So
I'm excited to experience it.
Yeah, it's way different than sitting in a terminal.
Yeah.
For like 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah,
that's for the birds.
And here's the part, and I think
I'm losing my relatability, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, I will lose it for that.
Yeah. You know, and it's funny. Here's the part though. Like you travel in this last year. I mean, you probably traveled 4 or 5 times more than I did, at least, maybe even 6 times, probably more than that. You know, so the part is that thing that you've engineered in, it's because the amount that you spend doing that. For me, like I love what we've built. Like my ability at this point, and I do see that to probably change in the future, but I love being able to serve people, you know, in the way that we've built this. I mean, we are doing so much. I mean, I love in person, and don't get me wrong, I love connecting in that way. But I love the efficiency of being able to do what we do so largely digitally, right? And I do think, I mean, again, you know, we can look at the niceties, but when you understand again the amount that you travel, yes, you should, right? It isn't the piece of like, oh, you know, be one thing if like you're rolling first class and like everything you do and you're like, oh, the champagne they served me was too warm. Be like, okay, we got to check ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I think sitting in a nice lounge is better. I like I said, I've had such a fun year of travel. So I'm just manifesting that I have a very smooth 2025 travel.
Well, speaking of travel, I just looked it up because I have an app. If you travel frequently, there's an app called Flighty. It's like $5 or $6 a month. Worth it. It gives you all the updates. Again, we need to get sponsors for this podcast.
Ooh-wee.
Sponsored by Flighty. But I was looking it up. I've taken 57 flights, flown basically 25,000 miles. Oh, that's one time around the world. That's interesting. 4 days of flight time. So 4 days
In the air.
I've spent flying. That's crazy. 17 airports, 4 airlines. 4 airlines. I've flown United and American, Delta. What's another one? I wouldn't dare get on another one. I don't even want to get on those other 2. And then 13 hours lost from delays. Actually, that's better than I thought.
Oh,
You've done that on one flight.
I easily have you beat there. And it's the interesting piece, and this is another part in relatability. Like when life gives you lemons, I think it's your ability to still persevere and be the human that you are.
Yeah.
Like, and I think in that area of it, relatability in my mind is just, it's your awareness, right? I hear it so much within what that man said, to the idea of like, hey, I stand for y'all. Like everyone that was in that room. And I believe it sounded like it was coming from school, some educational, situation.
I think he said he was a school administrator, district something.
My Lord. I mean, think of that past leader. I mean, I cannot, the position that you could not put me into, I would not thrive educating the youth. Oh. I mean, I love little young humans. But when I think of that past leader, and you're in a classroom and all the complexities and all the challenges of that, and then you got some jerk that walks in, you're like, oh, I got to stand up real quick, right? Like, no, I want you to relax.
Yeah.
My goal is, I mean, genuinely, like it, like, I don't know, this is going to get ridiculous, but in my mind, I'm like, I want to have everyone in here. When we do a meeting, y'all are getting massages and we're going to try and talk through stuff while you're getting that done. Like, I want to like relax you. If I think about that whole space, shout out to all the teachers that are out there. Y'all crush it.
Yep. Yep.
So I that's what I'll say there. So I was curious on this one. So when you think of relatability, and when you think of servant leadership, and you heard that, who were people that were flashing through your mind?
Of people that have done relatability well? Or like
as you were listening to that, like for me, like Roxy was like, it was like she was sitting right next to me right now.
I mean, of my mentor, Kevin, is that he's so smart at what he does. He works for Clemson Productions and he's great at what he does. He's a great leader. He knows how to connect with people, and he does things under the radar that you would never even know. And he's not flashy, nothing like that. Mm-hmm. And so that's what drew me to him, is the sincerity in his heart. He practiced what he preached, and he's got that relatability piece. And I mean, everyone inside of our company has that relatability piece, because that is, I think that's one of the keys. We don't have it written out, but one of the keys, you have to be relatable.
Yep.
Because if you're not relatable, you can't connect.
Yep.
And if you can't connect, then you can't be a part of the team.
Yeah. And then, I mean, and what do you have?
But I was thinking, I'm like, what are things in our lives we might not ask people to stand up, but what are some things in our lives that maybe we are expecting people to do to serve our ego?
And I know exactly what mine is.
Oh, okay. What is it?
What's yours?
Well, I don't know. I was asking like a question that we all need to ask. I didn't know we were going to come up with answers. You give yours, and maybe that would trigger something.
Mine that slaps me in the face is punctuality, timeliness.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten much better over time. I know I've shared some stories on here about.
But do you think? I mean, like, I look at that as like that's a respect for the whole team, or do you take that like personally towards you?
I definitely can take it personal. Okay. And that's something that, again, it's this, I think it's a conditional loop where, expectation that I have is that everyone cares about it the same way that I do. And that's just not right. You know what I mean? I will say, like, there's a time and space for it, right? If I'm just having a meeting one-on-one, I always tell people, I'm like, hey, and maybe this is as I've worked on this, I was like, here's the thing. I actually maybe don't even care so much that you're late. Just communicate, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, I always have stuff to do. You give me 2 minutes, I will fill those 2 minutes, right? There's definitely something. I mean, even if it is just like, hey, awesome, you're running a few minutes late. Cool. I'm going to put some gratitude and further intention into this meeting that we're about to have, or the time that we're about to share. So maybe as I've grown in that, but that's definitely one where, like, oh my Lord, I would take it so just unnecessarily personal.
Oh, okay. It's interesting. Let me ask you a question. Let me flip the script on you. Do you have meetings where you're meeting with someone, then you're meeting with someone right after, right?
Yep.
Do you ever go over on that first meeting where you're late for the second one?
I mean, again, I normally, what I'll do, this is a great question. I'll normally, like, let them know, like, hey, I have a hard stop, right? So if I let's say that we're meeting at 7 a.m. I do this all the time, actually, within the 2 men's groups I'm in. I'll let them know, I'm like, hey, I got at 8 o'clock, so I got like a hard stop at like 7:55. Right. And I let them know, I'm like, I'm going to take those 5 minutes to, like, be able to, like, really, really present myself and, like, check into it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way that I would handle that. And unfortunately too, like, again, like, communication is awareness. Hey, this is what's going on. So even if we're in a really, really crucial point, if that's my reflection that I put something in for 60 minutes that should have been 90. Now, if it's like a 5-minute over thing, I'm going to be like, hey, love the thought. Can we pick this back up? And out of respect for what I'm going into, and I try and be as aware as what I can. So again, I'm doing the thing I'm asking for.
Yeah, exactly. And you are very aware. But if you're listening to this, because I was guilty of this, punctuality is a huge thing in our company, and it's not an Evan and Aaron thing. It's a team thing, because we all arrive. We have a meeting 10 minutes before. Our team's supposed to arrive 10 minutes before that. Get the salon prep ready to go. If you roll in right when that meeting happens, what you're communicating to the team is, hey, I'm not here to help. I'm here to, now there's times that we don't have anybody that does this habitual. There's times where we oversleep or we hit traffic. That's totally fine.
Yep.
Get that.
Yep.
But here's the thing, as a salon owner, if you're listening to this, if you have, say, one-on-ones and you're going over and the next person is waiting on you and you're running 10 minutes behind, you're doing the same exact thing. No, I was going on my throat. You're doing the same exact thing that you're not wanting your employees to do, showing up late. Mm-hmm. So you don't want them to come in 10 minutes late, but yet you're going 10 minutes over on a meeting.
Yep.
You're communicating the same thing.
Yep.
So it's really hard to hold people accountable when you're doing exactly what you're telling them that they need to be doing. So
I'm so thankful that you shared that. I'm going to shout out Jess for a moment. She is really, really good at trying to keep those as prompt and timing as what we can. And again, it's out of respect for the team, right?
Yeah.
I used to always say, when I would run late to the next client, I'd always try and have our coordinators reach out and give them a heads up, but I'd always go, hey, I'm so sorry, and I at least want to let you know, so that in your mind, you don't think that I just don't care about your time. Something happened, something came up, and what I needed to do in that situation was put more time and attention to it. But I'm letting you know so that in your mind, for certain, I gave them the same exact thing I'm going to give you.
Yep.
Which is my time and attention, right?
Yep.
I always found that, like, it was so important. I always wanted to have clients make sure, like, hey, I do not take your time for granted. How about that for relatability?
Love it. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you on the next podcast. We love you. If you need anything, reach out to us.